Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am so excited to see you. I know that once again, the Earth star has disappeared off the face of the planet for another couple months, but I am back and I am back with an amazing video for you today about my magical ayahuasca journey. I've been trying to make this video for a couple weeks because at the beginning of June, I came out of a 8-day ayahuasca journey where, there was 3 ayahuasca ceremonies and we gathered with a lot of Earth Star Academy soul family. And it was just an incredible experience. And I know that in our community, there is so much talk about plant medicine and ayahuasca, even if maybe it is hijacked or degraded, or if it's amazing and God sent. And I just want to dispel some of the misconceptions around this incredible plant medicine, and also that it is really truly not for everyone. And so I hope that you enjoyed this video. Stay till the end to hear my amazing story of how I came to come into union with this medicine. I truly was never looking for it, and I was brought into it by such magical circumstances. So I can't wait to share the story with you. First of all, before we even start, I just want to dispel any fear around this medicine. I know that certain people in the New Age community, even Lisa Renee, whom I love and respect so dearly, say that everyone should stay absolutely clear of ayahuasca because it is totally taken over by evil. And while I agree with this 95% actually, I think that ayahuasca shouldn't be taken easily. It shouldn't be this decision that you make, on a whim. And to be honest, I think most people should really stay clear of ayahuasca at this time, especially if you are a beginner, if you don't have awareness of your own energy system, if you don't know how to deal with demons and entities and negative aliens, and, really journey into these realities that can be super scary and intense. If you are somebody that's easily spooked and haven't embodied that super deep sense of sovereignty, absolutely stay clear of ayahuasca, and you're going to hear why as I tell you my story. There is major distortions and evil magic going on in the community of ayahuasca. And even for myself, I encountered this evil sorcerer who tried to take my magic and try to make me his wife in these really black magic ways. And so there's all of that going on in this community. 90% of the ayahuasca that's being facilitated outside of the jungle with these new agers that just, came onto this ego trip and started believing that they are a shaman after doing 3 ceremonies and started facilitating ceremony for other people. These people are out there saying that they are shamans and offering ayahuasca to all of these innocent new agers. And so be really careful with choosing who your facilitators are, and don't just jump in. And if you feel the medicine calling you, wait until the divine alignment, because the divine alignment is definitely coming. And that's really what I want to illustrate today with my video. This story begins in 2012 when I woke up from the false matrix and began to have this deep fascination with shamanism. Shamanism is essentially the path of communion with the other realms, usually for the purpose of healing or retrieving information or guidance in some way from beings and ancestors and guides not of this physical reality. And so shamanism essentially is the process of communing and connecting to consciousness beyond this veil. And so I feel like since I was very little, I've always had this ability. I've always felt this magic all around me, like this invisible field was in communication with me. And in 2012, I began to wake up and go to these events and parties where people were dancing all night, and I would feel and see energy flying around the room, and I wondered what I was going through. And I was guided to read all of these different books about shamanism and all kinds of different shamanism. And this is when I realized that I'm here to bring in this whole new level of shamanism that I call galactic shamanism, where really, as we commune with the energies beyond the veil, we're specifically utilizing energy that are of the galactic and celestial realms, which are really the energies that are coming in to support the earth as a starseed at this time. So at the beginning of my journey, obviously there were a lot of people that were super interested in ayahuasca in the spiritual community. A lot of people go and do these medicines, But for me, I actually never resonated or never felt this call to do it myself. It was until 2016 in October when I was feeling so depressed, living in the false matrix, needing to work a job. I was just so sad that all the children in the subdivisions were not getting to play outside and they were just stuck in their screens and everybody was like in this state of stasis. And eventually it just made me so upset that I went into the forest and I was pulled into this little stream in my subdivision. And I went up to the stream and all of a sudden I felt this river spirit begin to communicate with me. And she pulled me to this part of the river where there was this split in the river and there was this little island. And I could feel that there was a spirit, a nature spirit living on that island, and she had called me there. And so this river spirit started showing me visions of the children in the subdivisions and how they were so depressed being severed from Pachamama, Mother Earth. And they were in their phones and they were anxious and they were being bombarded with all of these images and ideas that were not organic, not natural, not innocent to their natural beingness. And so I was communicating with this river that I was so upset. I mean, I knew that I was supposed to do something about all of that. I wanted to help the children. And yet here I was feeling powerless, feeling helpless, feeling inundated by the artificial energies that were in the world. And she started showing me images of the jungle. She said, you have to go to the jungle to receive your own healing, my dear, or you're not going to be able to help all these people. And so from that point forward, I started looking for ways that I could go to the jungle. And, coincidentally, I had a friend who was working at a retreat center in Costa Rica as a chef. And he made a post about looking for an assistant and some volunteers. And I was like, wow, that could be a great way for me to go. I would have my food and lodging taken care of. I could be in the jungle. I could be of service. I love cooking food. And so I messaged him and he said, yeah, come down to this magical jungle retreat in Uvita of Costa Rica. So I went down there and for a week I made food and serviced this amazing retreat. And then one morning I woke up from this dream. In this dream, this green goddess came to me and she came really close to me and she said, you're becoming a shaman. And when she said this, I woke up out of this dream and I was like, oh my God, that was so cool. And I got out of bed and I walked out into the garden. I was looking for my boyfriend at the time to tell him. And he was already up talking to the gardener and they happened to have been talking about ayahuasca. And as I came up upon them, the gardener pointed to some tree off the distance. He said, there's our ayahuasca planted over there. It's been climbing on this tree for 7-8 years. And then he went, oh my God, the tree is gone. And so next thing I knew, we were all running towards this tree. And when we got there, it turns out the tree had fallen down sometime in that night. And we had to harvest the vines right away because, they were going to start to die. And so next thing I know, we got our machetes and we were harvesting this ayahuasca vine. And of course, this man had been training with the indigenous people for like 10, 20 years on the right way to cook and serve this medicine. And so he brought us back to his place. And so began my journey with this medicine. So he began to cook the medicine in this giant pot. And he put all the plants in it and started to boil it in water. And then he put me in this loft on the second floor right above this pot. And so for the next several days, I was just getting steamed by this ayahuasca that had wakened me from my dream as it was cooking. And so it just so happens that there was a traveling ayahuasca shaman named Kevin coming through that community that Friday. And that was what led into my first ever ceremony. That first ceremony was so beautiful. All I saw was visions of these new earth communities, people that are choosing this new way of life and have found these new ascension hubs that are creating a new life in these places with their soul family and doing things that they love. Farming, making music, making art, making earth a beautiful place, creating beautiful architecture, all of these things that we were going to do now. I feel like we're stepping into that timeline finally now. And I also saw these fairies in my body just scrubbing my cells, these fairies and elves just cleaning up my cells and taking the water and pushing the water around my body, cleaning up the plumbing. It was just so cool. So at the end of that trip was when ayahuasca came to me with this wooden box. And she came to me with this box and she said, "You are carrying sacred womb wisdom. And you will learn this over the next years, and this is what you'll have to share with the world. This is a gift that you have to share with the world." Of course, this was back in 2016 when I was just waking up and I was still, 22 years old. I had no idea what she was talking about. And of course, this year, coming back to Costa Rica, it's been exactly 7 years since then. And I came here to prepare for Healing the Womb #3. So it's been such a magical experience of full circle of being supported by this land even still, and just feeling into the magic that the land and the ancestors have always known things that I didn't know and have guided me all this time on this path that was always laid out for me. So that was just so cool to experience. So the next thing I knew, I was staying with this gardener at his property, and we were living at the foot of this Diamante mountain, which is funny because it's like DMT mountain. And so Diamond Mountain, Diamante Mountain, there was this massive waterfall that came out of the side of the mountain. And as we started to stay there for a couple weeks, I started hearing the mountain call to me. The mountain started saying, "Come up, my child, and sit with ayahuasca on your own." And I swear, guys, I thought I was making this up in my head. I thought it was my ego that was just, I was so full of myself. I thought, man, who do I think I am? Do I think I'm this like shaman or something? Like, I've read stories in books. Remember, I've read a lot of books about shamanism at this point, and the shaman always gets called onto this quest. And so I'm like, I just read all those books and now I'm imagining things as I just want to go on this quest. And there's no way I'm going up that mountain to drink ayahuasca by myself. But the whispers just kept going. The mountain just kept saying, "My child, come up the mountain, take the medicine, come commune with me." And so finally, these voices became so incessant that one night I said, "Okay, mountain, if this is for real, I gotta just receive the most clear sign that I'm not making this up in my head." And as soon as that thought left my mind, I heard this giant rumbling, like from outside. And I was like, wow, I think that was my sign, because it literally happened like as soon as I had that thought. But it was dark outside and I couldn't see anything. And so I just went to sleep and waited for the morning. The next morning I came outside and the whole side of the mountain had a landslide, and carved perfectly on the side of the mountain was this little old man with a long beard holding a staff sitting on a cloud, like, classic Chinese ancestor kind of carving. And so I'm walking over there with my ex-partner, Jack, and I'm like, "Do you see that?" He's like, "Yeah, that's the little old man in there." I was like, holy crap, the mountain is showing me his face. Here's what happened last night. We have to go up the mountain. So I go to the man who was the gardener, who had cooked this medicine, steaming me for those days. And I said, "Look, this is what happened. The mountain is calling me. I'm going through a shamanic initiation. Will you give me some of that medicine that you cooked?" Which, you cooked after I had had that dream that I was becoming a shaman. And he looked at me and he was like, "I really don't want to do this because there's so many crazy spiritual kids running around thinking they're all that. But I feel like this is out of my jurisdiction, so I'm just going to flip a coin." And so he literally flipped the coin then and there and begrudgingly handed me a little jar of ayahuasca that he took out of his fridge, and off I went on my journey. Now, I had no idea what I was getting into because obviously this was my second ceremony at this point. And so I've got this little jar of ayahuasca. I went over to my friend's house who've been on this shamanic journey for a long time, and they put together a little package. They put some Palo Santo in there. They put some essential oils. They put some crystals, and they handed me this little magic care package. We were trekking for like 3 days up this mountain, and we were camping and eating plantains off the trees. And eventually we trekked all the way to the top of Diamante waterfall. And we found this beautiful little gazebo situated right next to the river that was flowing into these pools that went down like, I don't know, 100, 200 feet. I have no idea, but it was really tall. And we said, this is the perfect spot. Let's stop here and get ready for ceremony. So we started to build this little altar. We went to the water to set our intentions and speak a prayer into the water. And, this led to just one of the, still to this day, most beautiful ceremonies of my entire life. The medicine activated the sensation of aliveness in my body that made my consciousness open, like it was this open sky full of sunlight and brilliance and joy. And I felt so in tune with everything. I felt like every tree was alive and singing its own song. I was feeling so in tune with the eagles that were flying above. And, I even got into these water and I was dancing and swimming in this little pool overlooking this waterfall. Like I was a water spirit, and I just felt so connected to what life truly means and how life is truly meant to be lived on this planet. At some point, I was sitting on this giant boulder overlooking this, 200-foot drop of this waterfall. And as I was sitting on this boulder, I felt all of this weight and pain in my womb just plummet down into the water, as I felt like thousands of years of trauma and pain were just being cleansed from my body, perched on this boulder like an eagle, looking over nature and just feeling so alive. To this day, it's been one of the most profound experiences of my life, because up to that point, living in the city as a child that grew up, in China, I have never felt that level of aliveness pulsate through my body ever. And I truly believe that this connection from the aliveness that is being on the earth, that is the life force that flows through all of the trees and the flowers and the plants and the rocks, this is really the cause of all disease, mental, spiritual, and physical. And so that night we decided to have a second sitting, and we sat at night. And nighttime ceremonies are just totally, entirely different. Nighttime ceremonies are in the dark, and so it's more about journeying inwards, and you can begin to see visions in your mind's eye. And my journey was all about the healing of my ancestors and the trauma that they have gone through in the bloodline, and how this trauma was still flowing inside of my blood, and to begin to heal and restore that original template of love and coherence in my body. After that journey, we basically were sent back home to Canada, and this contrast of worlds was truly shocking. I mean, I always got so depressed leaving the jungle, going back into the world. Pretty much got sent back to Canada, and I was quite sad because I thought, I had this dream that I was becoming a shaman. I thought I was becoming an ayahuasca shaman at the time because of how everything happened. And of course, I felt like in order to accomplish that goal, I needed to be in the jungle and not back in Canada. But Source guided me back to Canada, and also we ran out of cash, and so I needed to make money. And as the universe would have it, I met this ayahuasquero like immediately when I got back to Canada. And how this happened was very magical too, because around this time was when I discovered the horrendous situation of human trafficking on Earth and all the levels that this happens. And of course, I was shocked and devastated when I fully discovered this, and just really was in a deep prayer of what I can do for these children. I became obsessed almost with these children. I just knew that it was part of my mission to support them and to help them and to recover them from these fallen realities. And so one night I went to bed praying to know what I can do for these children. And I had this dream that I was in these places where these horrendous things have happened, and I was singing into the space, and this vibration that was coming through my throat was purifying and restructuring and supporting all the souls that were fragmented there back to source. And I knew that this was part of the gifts that I had. And yet at that time, I haven't started singing yet. And when I woke up from this dream again, I received a message from this ayahuasquero that I had been talking to. And he said, I have this ceremony coming up this weekend in a few days. I would love for you to come. And I said, yeah, it seems like I'm meant to come because I just had this dream. And this was in Hamilton, so I drove over to Hamilton, and it turns out that everybody else that was supposed to be there at that ceremony somehow didn't make it. There was a car accident, some guy, hurt his leg, somebody else, just got busy, and literally nobody else came to the ceremony. And it was just me and this man. And I took the medicine, and immediately I was taken up to source, and I felt so loved by God. I could just feel it was the moment that God had just crafted my body, and God was looking down at me and saying, wow, what a perfect creation. And I was looking up at God, and I said, yeah, you created me so perfectly and love you so much. It's this moment of union and love. And I thought for myself for a second, this is too beautiful to be happening right at the beginning of my ceremony. So something intense is about to happen. As soon as I had that thought, I was plummeted down to the depth of hell. And in the center of hell, I was seated in this circle. And around the circle, there were 8 or 9 galactic shamans, like very powerful healers who were from other galaxies. And there was a cat being, there was a dolphin being, there was a blue skin person. And in the circle was me. I was wearing my shamanic garb as well. And we were sitting in a circle, and in the center of the circle was an archetype, a man who had done horrendous things. This man had trafficked so many children and had just done horrendous things to them. And he was holding a cup of ayahuasca. And as, all of this happened so fast, I didn't really have any moments to pause or to say no or anything. He pulled the cup up to his mouth, and I flew into the ayahuasca as he was drinking it and ended up inside of his body. And for the next 3 hours, as these shamanic galactic shamans were sitting in this circle, they were drumming and chanting and holding space while I was inside of this person, which was a representation of fallen consciousness. This happened because it had to show me what that consciousness is. What is the quality of a consciousness that is so fallen that would go as far as do these horrendous things to children? And in order for me to be able to help the rehabilitation of that DNA, remember, I'm a life field geneticist, and so my job is to support the rehabilitation of genetics in this earth plane, of people and plants and animals and the earth. And so I had to go into this person to see the state of the genetic digression that this person would have to be in to be doing those kinds of things. So the whole time I was receiving this training and witnessing just horrendous things while still holding absolute sovereignty and love, this absolute gnosis of who I am and how, I am a powerful force of love, and all I had to do was ring this tone of love and hold the field in a way that begins to pull any organic substance that was left in this man out to the forefront. It felt like Holy Mother was calling this man back to love. It felt like my role was just to hold that love until he's ready to remember it. But, I also witnessed all of the horrendous things and all of the pain and suffering that this person was in to lead him to be in resonance with that kind of evil. So this was one of my first highly intense trainings in facilitating support for this planet. And eventually, at the end of this 3 hours of wrestling with the purest evil, I felt this light return in that person, and he began to come back into love, which was so profound for me to experience. My ayahuasca journey continued always in this way. I never looked for her. I never thought, oh, I want to sit with her, because you don't want to sit with ayahuasca. It tastes like bitter medicine. It tastes like nothing I've ever tasted before. And those of you that have sat with her know that it's that smell, that taste. When you think about it, it just almost makes you want to vomit already. And every time I go in there, it is so intense. It's never something that I want to look out and seek out for. But life would always align me in the right time with the right medicine during these stellar gateways when there was major grid work going on. It was just like every single time was this incredibly magical alignment. And I think at this point, I've sat in ayahuasca about 20 times total in the past 7 years. And I just want to say that it is such a magical and powerful experience for me, I know that plant medicines are our galactic allies. We brought them to Earth to support our mission. The ayahuasca is made of angelic DNA, and that is why it has access to such immense healing power and has this vast knowledge base of almost everything because it's plugged into the cosmic tree of life. It has access to the Akash. And so when we take this medicine, it's plugging us into the root systems of the planet and of the sacred tree of life. Now, because of the level of the damage that has gone on in the light body of the planet and the light body and DNA of humans, of course, there's going to be devastation and harnessing and hijacking and vampirism that happens on these journeys. In any time that we interact with the energies beyond the veil, we come into that possibility, right? There's always going to be a possibility of demons coming in, negative aliens coming in, and I've experienced all of that. So that's all true. It's not false, but the ultimate truth is that there's nothing to be afraid of when you know who you are and what you're connected to. I mean, you are a divine sacred starseed who's carrying the most powerful forces of creation in your body. You are an agent of heaven. You have the force of creation flowing through you, and there's nothing that can harm you. There's nothing that can destroy your template. And so when you go into it with that mindset, you can actually begin to help the rehabilitation of the ayahuasca instead of being afraid of it being able to harm you in some way. Now, of course, that requires a high level of mastery, right? To have that level of sovereignty as you're stepping into these ceremonies. But that is why, there's no hurry. And stepping into the Earth Star Academy, you're being taught all of these incredible skills of healing and activation and field mastery that if it is right for you, when the ayahuasca is aligned, that it will just be such an incredible experience for you because you're going to experience your own mastery when you're inside of that medicine space. That being said, those spaces are super duper intense. And even for me, sometimes I'm like, holy crap, I can't believe I'm here again. Why do I keep doing this? This is just too crazy for me. But I know that when I get brought into those spaces that it's very important training for me because my mission has to do with the support of these children. I'm here to train healers to know how to hold space and heal these children from a shamanic level. And, sometimes in order to heal, you got to know what you're dealing with. And these children, they're not just experiencing 3D trauma, they're experiencing, interdimensional trauma, ritual abuse trauma. And that also is involved in like demons and interdimensional energy harvesting. And so without seeing these structures clearly, we can't expect to be able to heal and support these children, which is why I constantly get pulled into these spaces. So flash forward to 2023. It's actually been 4 years since my last ayahuasca ceremony. And I actually had no idea I was coming until a month before when the earth just made it very clear that I was to travel to Costa Rica. It came through my husband, Shane. He was like, we're going to Costa Rica, and he's very receptive and activated as well. So a lot of times I feel like he gets directional messages better than me. He's very locked into the space of physicality and he navigates reality in this amazing way. And so he looked at me, he's like, we're going to Costa Rica. And I was like, yay, we're going to Costa Rica. I had no idea. So our friend Judy organizes these incredible retreats in this sacred location in Costa Rica that I think is the purest medicine that you will find on this planet. Because it is grown in a Mother Ark gateway, in an Aurora platform, and this amazing, eternal, clear, pristine water is just bursting out of the earth. And so the medicine is being grown by this water and is being cooked in this water and is being cultivated in this galactic portal. And so this is one of the most divine places in the whole world to sit with this medicine. And of course, we work with the galactic aspects and we're conscious of the rehabilitation of the ayahuasca here as well. We do this retreat once a year, but if there is more interest, we can do this more. We just had, 10 or 12 Earth Star Academy students join this year's retreat, and everybody had such profound powerful, life-changing experiences. I mean, if you're watching this video and you were there at the retreat, drop a comment below and just tell us how powerful this experience was for you. But anyway, I realized that this was literally such a powerful time for me because my ayahuasca journey began in 2016. And that was also when my journey with the womb wisdom started, right? At the end of that ceremony, having brought into that ceremony by this green goddess who told me I was a shaman, and then the tree fell. And then at the end, at the peak of the ceremony, she was like, "You're carrying womb wisdom." I was like, what the heck is womb wisdom? I had no idea what she was talking about. But having experienced everything that I have in the last 7 years, right? All of the initiations and the grid works and the activations with the earth and the remembrance of myself as a geneticist from Andromeda, and all of the initiations with my beloved Kara, my baby, who was born and then came back to the other side and then was born again. Of course, all the womb wisdom and the womb initiations that was activated through her, I just realized, wow, it was almost like this prophecy had come full circle in these 7 years, and that I have fully activated my role in the support and the holding of this womb healing wisdom temple. And so it was very clear that I was coming to Costa Rica because the land was supporting the opening of the temple again. So I'm also going to put a link to my womb healing container down in the description below, because, you know, I don't even have words for how profound it feels to follow through on my guidance, right? You know, when the river tells me to go down to Costa Rica, I could have easily said, oh, you know, I'm just making this up in my head, or I don't have the money to do that, or I'm not good enough, or I don't want to do that, or it's going to be too hard. I could have said any of those things and not followed my guidance, but I did. And I just kept doing it. Okay? And so it feels like this amazing moment where I'm seeing myself having said yes again and again and again to all of the difficult things, to all of the things that I needed to do to fulfill my mission. And now after 7 whole years of doing that, I'm being blessed by the earth, who is congratulating me, and I'm having this graduation ceremony. It's funny because yesterday my little brother had his high school graduation ceremony. And so it feels like the birds are weaving these flower crowns and putting them on me, and the earth, you know, is supporting me. And I'm sure you might have seen these beautiful images and videos that I was able to capture as part of my marketing material for this course. It just felt like the earth was supporting me so much. Like, this has always been the prophecy for my mission and my highest timeline. And so that's been so amazing to experience. But to come back also into the ayahuasca ceremony was a surprise to me, because honestly, I didn't know if I was ever going to sit with ayahuasca again. And I still don't know. And I never knew, which is the fun part of it, I guess. Because, you know, I've never sought it out. And I truly believe that if it's meant for you, that God will create a pathway for you to be divinely aligned to just the right person, just the right place, just the right time for you to engage in that ceremony, for it to be magic, for it to be full of this presence of divine coherence. So we went to this retreat with my whole family, and of course we have our baby Kara. And so we were planning for Shane to do the first ceremony, for me to go into the second ceremony, and for him to do the third. Now, before the second ceremony, I went to Michelle, who is the beautiful ayahuasquero, and I said, I'm breastfeeding. Am I going to have to pump my milk? Now, I already knew the answer to that, but I just wanted to make sure. And she was like, yeah, like, you know, I think you're going to take not a big dose, and so it should be fine. But also, you can take Kara into the ceremony if you want. And I've always heard stories of families taking their children into the ceremonies, but I never dreamt that I would take my baby in. But long story short, Kara was there with me. She was just sleeping on this little cot right beside me and sitting in between Shane and I during the second and the third ceremony. And that was so incredibly beautiful to experience. You know, you see those Alex Gray paintings of the lines running through the body and the family being together. It felt just like that. We were in just this beautiful pod of divine love and union that was part of it. But the other part of it was that I once again was pulled into the grids of human trafficking. And this is the result of my prayers entirely, because I'm always just praying to God, like, how can I be of service? What am I here to do? How can I be an instrument for love? And of course, love will always flow to where it's needed the most. Okay, that's true love. True love is like this piercing knife or this water that will just always flow to where it's needed the most, and it slices through all that is an illusion, all that is false. And so there's this like false love and light, people that are like avoiding the reality of these children, trying to live in this false reality where everything is perfect and they are in 5D or whatever. And then there's this true love in my heart that I love life so much, I'm going to those places that need this love the most. That's true love. Okay. And so I pray every single day for me to come into the highest alignment that I can be, for me to see where I'm needed the most so that I can be of service the best on this planet. And so of course, on this journey, I almost immediately, I start to see these geometric formations. I start to feel these beings that are the doctors that are there to heal and support my body. And then I just start seeing I'm in this warehouse. I'm in the city. It's nighttime in the underbelly of the city, and I see this warehouse, and I start to see these children, and I start to fly into the children and experience what they're experiencing. And it's just the most horrific fear and agony. And all they want is just for their mother to be there. For, some of them are even being trafficked by their mothers, but they wish that they had, just the presence of that adult who really cares for them. But they know that they don't have that. And so it's just this like resounding horror. It's never ending. And they're in the hands of these soulless men. And I would fly into these men as well, fly into their bodies and feel how soulless they are and how empty it is on the inside. It's almost like they're completely taken over by a viral program. And this went on for 4 freaking hours. It was really intense because, I would get a break. I would go into the children, I would fly around the warehouse, go into this man. I would study how this is so essentially this is a harvesting device. It's a way that is transforming the life force of the earth into loosh that can then be siphoned by these interdimensional demons. So in order to do that, they have to create a very strong negative emotional resonance. And of course, the strongest, purest of that sort would be children going through a horrendous, terrifying thing. But I learned how this is a planetary technology, a negative alien technology. But as I was going into the children, going into the adults, and then I would come out just being like, holy that's so crazy and intense. And then I would look down and there would be little Kara and I would cuddle her, and then I would think, I wouldn't even know what to do if, my baby was in that situation. And I realized that those babies don't have parents, or the parents have no idea where they are. And that would swing me back into this whole other round of being with the children. And I could feel that just by me being there, those children could feel my presence. They felt that I was there. And that's when I realized how important it is for me to be there, because, the whole time the medicine was just saying, you can't forget this. And the children were saying, don't forget about us. Don't forget about us. Because if you forget about us, then, we're going to be trapped here forever and nobody's ever going to know and nobody's ever going to come for us. Just broke my heart. Truly. It was horrendous. And I also knew the importance of me being there. And I realized that even though it was hard for me in that moment, that my ceremony was going to be completed, in 5-6 hours, I'll be done. But those children are still there. They don't get to come out of that experience. They're just trapped in that darkness. And so I came out of that ceremony with these giant katanas in my back, which are these giant Japanese swords. And I felt this fire in my heart. Like, I'm ready. I'm going for those children. In order to do that, I need to establish my business, my life, my all of my things that are in order on this earth so I can be a pillar of strength and power, so I can fulfill and gather the resources that we need to do what we need to do to build these healing centers, to educate and train the world's most powerful and capable healers so that we can truly support these children. And that is why these ceremonies, they're not for everyone. There's a lot of people with really sensitive nervous systems that already think you're being psychically attacked all the time. And, somebody like that going into these ceremonies, they're going to just go crazy. They're going to think that they're being trafficked or they're, whatever. Their mind is going to make up all sorts of stories. And you need to be a strong soul individual to do this work. That's the honest, reflection I have about ayahuasca, because there's a lot of documentaries out there that are only talking about the healing effects or only talking about the ceremonial effects. And not a lot of people talk about the intense vigils and realms that you can get plummeted into on this medicine, not to mention, the demonic realm and all of those things. And so just know that I am on this path and I have been trained for many lifetimes. I am fully capable of navigating these realities, coming back into this world and integrating it through my body, and then actually making me stronger and coming back to the world with videos like this to share with you. And, this, of course, is invigorating a sense of mission in you, right? To feel like, yes, I'm here for the children. Like, yes, there's a fire inside of me. You are now receiving that medicine because I have gone in and drank in the ayahuasca. And so maybe sometimes for a lot of you, that's all that's needed. For a lot of you, you don't really need to drink it. And you will know if you do. You will know for sure. It'll be obvious for me. Obviously, the ayahuasca literally came to me and then, literally pulled me into a ceremony. So it couldn't be more obvious than that. And I really believe that if you just allow the universe to orchestrate for you, that for you, your experience will be that way as well. So yes, in conclusion, my trip here in Costa Rica has been incredible. I have been integrating all of these amazing upgrades from my medicine journeys. And, I truly believe that as an Andromedan light field geneticist, I am here to support in the rehabilitation of ayahuasca, as well as all beings DNA as part of my job. And in my journey, I have seen confirmation that the angelics brought the ayahuasca to the earth to support us on our mission, because I have received innumerable support from the ayahuasca plant, even though it is not for everyone, even though there is hella evil magic and degradation in the ayahuasca community. It doesn't mean anything, because your experience is your own. And your experience is going to be unique based on, who you are. And the more powerful, the more sovereign, the more embodied you are, the less prone you will be to being, affected negatively by anything in the world, including ayahuasca. I really believe that these plant medicines are here to help us. I mean, I think about the amount of confusion and mind control and disconnection and disease there is in the whole world. Plant medicine can play a huge role in the support of humanity through this next phase. And I really feel like instead of being fearful of plant medicine, we can create new systems. We can work on the rehabilitation. We can create higher, more aligned, sacred ceremonies. And we can also create technologies in the form of music and apps and guided meditations to support humanity in, dissolving these evil magic that is laid upon them, right? Humans are already under this evil magic of mind control and confusion and amnesia. And our role is to help them to dissolve that, to remember their sacred connection to the earth. And there's no better ally for that than certain plant medicines. And it's really important that we go about it in a very reverent way, in a very prayerful way, where we're not overusing them, where we are truly devout in our journey and actually spending the time to fully integrate our journeys before stepping back in. I mean, there's a lot of circles that do circles every weekend, and they do this for many years. And it's like, okay, at that point, what are you even doing it for? Because for me, it's been 4 years since I've had my last journey, and it took 4 years for me to integrate the last journey. And of course, now I'm here. I don't imagine I'll be doing this again for a very long time. And even with, marijuana, I used to do one marijuana ceremony once a year and I would bring my questions, and the plant medicine would give me all of these incredible answers because the marijuana plant is very attuned. She's a master plant that is connected to our somatic body in a very immense way. She's carrying this vast knowledge. And so for me to ask her questions about my self-healing, about my organs, about all these things, she gave me all the answers. Now, it took me a whole year to apply the things that she told me. If I don't, and I just go back and smoke some more, it is disrespectful to the master, right? You don't go to like a master to ask them questions and then they tell you how to support your life and then you don't apply any of those things. You just come back to the master. I mean, that's disrespectful. And so this is my relationship with plant medicines. I just truly believe that they are so powerful. And of course, it comes from my own power that I relate to these plants in this way. And I just really hope that this was an interesting video for you guys. I've dropped the links to the womb healing container in the description, and it's so good to see you guys again. I've missed you. I will see you in the next video.